right, thank you for sitting down with us. If you could introduce yourself.
Hi, Terry Abrisz, native Browntonian, born 4/21/61. Literally a stone's throw from here because this isn't too far from where the maternity ward for Burlington Hospital was. So I don't know if anybody else has pointed that out yet, or if John did or anything, but yeah, I thought that'd be a nice touch. I was literally more a stone's throw from where we're probably sitting.
What do you love most about this community?
Oh, the history. Being a historian, it's got so much to it. It's home. Like I said, born here, lived here till I was 27 when I left for Iowa, Iowa City and everything. Came back here 10 and a half, almost 11 years ago to take care of my mom. And never regretted that decision, not for a second. So, part of my love here is, like I said, the history. I was back here about 3 or 4 months when Angela Benkin, the administrator at the Historical Center at the time, asked me to take over hosting their Paper and a Pot of Coffee program, which I did for over 3 years and enjoyed that and everything. However, there was a new administrator and she and I had a little clash, which led to my leaving the Historical Society. After they didn't renew the program or restart it back up, I got a hold of Sam Helmick and I said, hey, how'd you like me to move my program down to the library? And she was like, sure, let's do it. And so since then, you, Sam, me, it's just been a riot, I mean, when we put them together and everything and sit down and, I mean, starting with, the young and considerate. I am the library's young and considerate. Even though I'm crowding 64 years old, I am still the young and considerate based on an editorial we found in the September 8, 1961 Hawkeye, where there was vandalism going on at the library. And the editorial writer pointed out that this doesn't excuse the conduct of the young and considerates. So I have technically been the aging young and considerate. So so I've been doing excuse me, I'm stumbling a little. Sam and I came up with a great title for the program when we moved down here. That's yesterday's news. I tried old saying for things that that's not important or anything. And like I said, she and I came up with that. We did have to take a little break from COVID. We tried to do it video-wise and everything, and remotely, but that didn't work because we had like 2 people for one program and 1 for another. But when we started back up, it's been great. I love coming down here and doing that program. It is a lot of work, I gotta tell you, every month. Stephanie, you know how much you had to do for me and that, but the capstone was last March in 2024, after failing to come up with a great idea for, somebody suggested, do a history of J.S. Schramm's. And that was probably the greatest program, one of the best memories I'll ever have. Because I'm sitting there getting ready to go. I walk in here at 9:20 and there's like 30 people in the room already. And by 9:40 we were at 60. My good friend Chris Walter was keeping count for me. And we ended up with 103 people. I mean, we had to open up the back wall because of the fire code and everything. I remember when I started the program at the library, my goal was to someday have 40 people come to my programs. I mean, I was able to joke with Brittany here after last month's program. Brittany, I'm sorry, but our attendance fell 50% from last year. We only had 51 people and everything. So tomorrow I'm really looking forward. I've got the Ewinger brothers helping me with, what was there? Oh, no, I can't remember. I know it's torn up tracks and, what was it? Oh, something trains. Yeah, something trains and, lost trains and torn up tracks. I think that's it. So, like I said, looking forward to doing it here at 10 a.m. So, go ahead.
Perfect. So the focus of the video is answering our key question, what connects us?
This place. You should have brought some tissue for me.
I can go grab you some.
What chokes me up? I was coming down here. My mom probably brought me down here before I could walk. And she would bring us down here, starting with, I'm the fifth of 6 kids. And she would bring all my brothers and sisters down here, checking out books. And one of my best memories when I was little was probably 3 years old, 4 years old. My little sister is a year younger than me. And I remember Mom reading to Cindy out in Crapo Park. It was going to be years before Cindy read. But my mom instilled a love for this library, the old library, which is carried over today. And like I said, that's what connects us to me. This place has done so much. Like I said, I was coming here when I was probably, a toddler. And here I am now, 62 years later, and just love coming down here. Tomorrow morning I am gonna be there, nervous as a cat in a room of a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, as the old saying goes. But I'm gonna be loving, sitting up there tomorrow. Like I said, it's gonna be fun to have Bill and Tim helping me. They have a little more knowledge about railroads than I do. I'm pretty good myself, though. And what was there? But one of the things I've always said when I host the program is, and I told this to one of the newspaper ladies asked me, I said, one of the best things you can do to be a good program is the less I talk, the better the program, because that means I've got people sharing. Like when we did the Shrams program, I had these beautiful, lovely old ladies that had worked there in the 50s and the 60s. And the sad thing was they buried one of their friends the day before, one of their old co-workers. But those ladies were telling stories. Jeannie Bell was telling stories of her days in the bridal shop. My sister drove clear down from Atkins, Iowa to tell her story about helping Mom fix a wedding veil the night before a wedding that Mom had accidentally burned and everything. So like I said, it's the input from the audience when I do these programs. That's the best part of it. That's what makes the stories better. I know a little something, but I love hearing, that's part of that connection, is when I do these programs, is to have somebody tell me their stories. So, like I said, I remember, climbing the stairs at the old location and, looking at the bust of Admiral Remy, and, didn't know at the time that he was the first, rear admiral born west of the Mississippi, and that. So there's just so much of that building. Grimes and Salter, like I said, Salter is probably my favorite Burlingtonian in history. Like I said, you look at a guy, he spent 64 years at the same job, pastor of First Congregational Church. And he was one of the people that helped get the Burlington Public Library going. That's why there was the Grimes Salter room up there at the old library and everything. And learning about Salter was fun because, like I said, one of the things was that, he came here, he started as pastor at the church before Iowa became a state. And he had a little bit of a sense of humor. He was also an early abolitionist. When the church said, we will not let you keep runaway slaves in our church because the church would get confiscated under the Fugitive Slave Act. So he said, fine, I'll just keep them in my carriage house up on South 8th Street. But you look at Salter as an older man, and he had some tragedies in his life. He lost a teenage daughter in 1864. His wife and him were out in the park, and he stopped to talk to some men taking down a tree when the tree toppled and killed her. instantly, June 12, 1893. But you look at him in the pictures of him, he's just this dour old, New England-born congregational pastor, you think. But the man had a great sense of humor that was hidden. What was there? He joked to one of his people at the church that, I think I'm going to change the name recording my births, marriages, and deaths. I think I'm going to change that to hatched, matched, and dispatched, and everything. Another time, the candidates he backed in the local election were all defeated, and somebody asked him how he's doing. Oh, I'm feeling a little like Lazarus. Why Lazarus? Because Lazarus was licked by dogs. So, like I said, it's great. Like I said, the stories I can tell you. I mean, what was there? I appreciate you guys doing this so much, because it was one of the things that I wanted to, do an oral history project when I was at the library, and I was told no, the board doesn't think that's important. Well, I think that probably also might have contributed their reluctance to even consider me for the job when I applied 4 years ago or whatever, 3 years ago, because I said the first thing I'm going to do is start an oral history project. It's like, you guys don't like it? Tough. Well, I guess they didn't like my attitude. So I can be a little bit bullheaded at times. So, okay, let's see. Anything? Got enough more questions?
I do. Let's see. How do you see our community as a place where people come together?
In this community, I mean, what was there? This place is great. Like I said, I don't do holiday parades, but I mean, I love, because I'm not big on crowds anymore at my age. It's a little harder for me to maneuver in them and everything. This hasn't helped either. But this place brings the community together. Like I said, what I love, when I see people come out here, I think that I brought people down into the library who had never been in this library before, except for my programs. I mean, I've got everybody from reactionary right-wingers showing up to them to people who are to the left of me probably, and I'm pretty darn liberal. But like I said, I also, if I didn't mention, I'm waiting for the bee season to start again. This is going to be my 10th or 11th year working in some minor capacity, either scoreboard operator or official scorer. I mean, that's the kind of place that I just see the community, But the library, like I said, I love the mix of people I get on Saturdays and everything, the first Saturday of the month. So.
And can you share any stories, memories, or personal experiences that you want to share with the community?
Oh, wow. How many hours you got? Let's see. One of the great things is when I talk to people at the programs, like I said, I've tried to do a wide range of things. I'm still looking for new challenges, new topics. Like next month, we're going to do the history of Burlington in the 1940s. But one of the things is I got Bill Ewinger, who is probably one of my closest friends here in town now. And if I start telling stories about the fire department, Bill will tell me, hey, tell the one about the Lawrence Welk show and everything where the fireman pulled the breaker to upset the assistant chief who loved Norma Zimmer, the Champagne Lady. But like I said, I've carried on my father's stories of that. But Mom, Mom's the biggest reason why I'm who I am. And the love of her the love of reading she taught us when we were young, and the love for the library and everything. She was just wonderful. And everything. Like I said, watching her read to my little sister when my sister's probably 1 year old. Amazing. Way ahead of her time. Geez, I got too many stories to tell. I'm trying to figure out. I think I'm fairly intelligent, but I was a lousy high school student. And one of the stories I told here at one of my recent programs was how when I was, we were doing the last month for the Westland Mall program. like I said, I was a rather rebellious high school student because all the counselors would tell me, you know, they'd see my last name, Abrisz, Abrisz, and they knew that I was Richard's brother, Sue's brother, Kathy's brother, Joe's brother. And they were all great students and everything. I did very well in the Iowa Test of Basic Skills in 5th grade, and that just put it more of a, oh, he's going to be the next great Abrisz. You're going to be the other 4 Abriszes rolled into one. I'm like, oh my God. Joe told a great story. My brother, my older brother, 3.5 years older, still very close. Probably one of the greatest influences in my life. He's a big reason why this building is here and everything. But Joe told me one time, it's like he walked into class, and the worst thing that we would ever hear with the last name Abrisz is, okay, I'm gonna sit you kids in alphabetical order. And you're like, oh God, first row, front seat, here I go again. I mean, there was never gonna be any change in that until finally I had Colleen Abel in 9th grade in my class. But, so that was always one of the funniest things. But anyway, so when we were doing the Westland Mall story, I had a picture from my senior Pathfinder. And here is the 4 seniors that worked in my class that worked at Yonkers. Mike White, whose dad managed the store, Kay Anderson, Kay Beating now, Beth Rogerson, now Beth Reynolds, and Russ Price. Russ worked in the stock room and everything. And I asked him to give me a right-handed mannequin hand for graduation, because I was going to walk up. I thought we were going to shake hands with our principal, Lyle Ebner. And I was going to walk up, put the mannequin hand in his hand, let go, and keep walking. And so we're all ready for me to do that. The whole class is anticipating it, all 407 of them, including myself. And I'm sitting there ready to go, and they tell us, okay, graduates, you will receive your diplomas, and you'll be shaking hands with Marie Reed, the president of the school board. Marie Reed was a retired school teacher, probably about 70 years old. I took one look at this tiny, tiny, frail, very nice lady, and all of a sudden I saw it in my head. I was going to walk up, slap the mannequin hand in her hand, take one step, start laughing as the whole assembled Bracewell Stadium crowd went, "Hoo!" as she keeled over. And I thought, and then I had the picture of the next day's Hawkeye front page. Graduate held on manslaughter charge, with me holding, Burlington Police 53179 while I still had my mortar board on, and couldn't do it to her. Just said no. Sorry guys. But let's see. Like I said, just love this town. What was there? And the other great thing, Stephanie, about doing all the research I do, I had somebody ask me about Straussy Brothers Clothing, which was down across from Schramm's from 1896 to 1933. And I went because this lady said, hey, does anybody know anything about my ancestors or the business? So I found when they took over the store in 1896 from a guy by the name of Rab, and they closed the store in 1933 saying they were retiring, which I think might have also been boosted by the Great Depression. But I was looking at, and I found that one of the places that these guys lived at, one of these brothers lived at, was 1016 North 6th, which was later Elaine and Harry Baxter's house. And Harry, the younger Harry, who I graduated with, I was in that house so many times over the years, including at, the last time was for Elaine's memorial service and everything. I loved doing I did an oral history project of Elaine's life and career. Growing up, worked with a father who worked for the government and everything, up to her, becoming Iowa's Secretary of State, her runs for legislature before that, her failed attempts to run for Congress and everything. Like I said, but it was just amazing because here when the Straussy brothers had lived in that house until he passed away in 1941 and everything. And here I was in that house, 30, 40 years later, quite often. So, kind of cool. Oh, let's see. trying to think of any other good stories I should tell you. Let's see, I told you that. Coming back here in 2014. Oh man.
It seems like you make a lot of connections through the program and just through the community.
Oh yeah, it's fun. I mean, and that is the great thing, was I'll have people come up to me and just start talking to me who I've never met before. I'll have old friends come up and start talking to me. I've had friends who I haven't seen, who all of a sudden are like, hey, one of my classmates, I've just said, hey, come on down to the program sometime. I think I will, and everything. Now she's a semi-regular and everything. But, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I should have had some stories set for you and everything. What was there? I'm trying to think of something. But like I said, this was also a great place for a bunch of kids in my family. I'll go back to my family a little bit. We were just a bunch of manor kids and everything. I mean, 6 kids and and mom and dad in a tiny little 2-story townhouse and everything that I can't take you to because it was torn down. It's about in back of where, the bank is over there, out there about where Sonic is and that. And what was there? But the one thing that we talked about, I was this is a connection story with my brothers and sisters. A couple months ago, I was delivering some auto parts out to a place at Agency in Roosevelt. And as I'm leaving, I stop and pause because here comes a bus that's still marked Flint Hills. And I had to take a picture of it, and I told my brothers and sisters, I said, hey, I just saw the Flint Hills bus. And I told him, I tried to tell him that he should stop, even though he can't do it really because it's not there anymore. He needs to make sure he stops at Valley and Union because there's a bunch of little kids that want to come down to the library and that. And next thing you know, Sue and Joe and Cindy and I are just going, and this is something that you're going to love as a librarian. We got to talking, and Cindy's favorite book was a childhood book, was a book called Shoes for Angela. But anyway, Sue brought up a book, because Sue is a huge baseball fan. I'm the hugest baseball fan of the bunch. As Joe says, to most of us, baseball was a sport. To Terry, it was his religion. But we are talking back and forth. We're just texting, boom, 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 boom. And Sue points out, I think I was the only person there who ever checked out the Mel Ott story, outfielder for the Giants in the 30s and the 40s, and that maybe the 20s too. And I said, and Joe and I are both like, oh no, you weren't. We checked it out too. And too bad about that car accident and everything. The guy got killed in a car accident in '58 down in Louisiana near his home. But we were just going back and forth, and we were just rolling back the years. And Sue pointed out, yeah, it wasn't always easy lugging 6 library books to the bus stop and then carrying them home from a block even extra and that. But that was one thing I will tell you. When we got when we came down to the library, it was very rare that each of us didn't take 6 books home to the manor and everything. What was there? One funny story is that Joe, who was a member of the library board for several years here, one book that we would always take turns checking out was the American Heritage Illustrated History of the Civil War and everything. A lot of times, one of us, he would have checked it out, he'd put it in the return pile, I'd say, I'm checking this out. And we do that quite common and everything. But anyway, when he was on the board, Joe looked, and all of a sudden that book was in the book sale here, and he snarfed it up, and he's got it to this day. How cool is that?
That is amazing.
Oh,
well, thank you so much for sharing your stories, and we can always do a part 2 if you come up with more.
Oh boy, now that you offered that, I'll just be loaded for. I'll be loaded for bear with stories
The
next time.
notes.
Yeah.
We'll
You
have
know,
a collection for you.
Yeah, right. So, like I said, Abrisz, the young years. Abrisz, the middle-aged years. Abrisz, the oncoming senior years or something. No, I'm just kidding. By the way, when I did joke with Stephanie, folks, that I thought instead of, once I got down here, being a huge fan of the Marx Brothers, I would just sit here for about half an hour and imitate Harpo Marx. But she's like, please no. So,
Stories, please.
what's that?
Stories, please.
Yes. So anyway, why don't we close with that? Because I thought that was just a fun little point and everything. So
Perfect.
everybody have a good night.